In a meeting, Joshua stands against the idea of fighting against humans. Logue, the hero, wants to steal the territory of other nobles who have gotten weak from fighting against the Demon King's army, like a sneak thief. However, the hero and the captain of the Knights of Schwarz does not like that Joshua is calling him a sneak thief. The Knights of Schwarz were formed to fight against the Demon King's army, and is now recognized as an order. Logue, the commander and Joshua's childhood friend, was commended for his fighting and was conferred countship. That is when he started to change. He's been inviting nobles day after day, holding parties, flaunting luxury goods, sleeping with ladies, and indulging himself in alcohol and meat. Anyways, Joshua is against this undeniable invasion, so Logue snaps. He tells Joshua that he has been allowing him to attend the meeting as the oldest member of the order and the production department chief, and all he is doing is complaining. Joshua explains that he does not wish to make tools that are used to kill people. He wants Logue to go back to the way he used to be, and he absolutely does not want to work for the order that attacks its own people. Now is the time to focus on the Demon King army, the ones they are fighting and not the people. Joshua seems very desperate to get his words through, but Logue announces that he does not need him. He even blames Joshua for making such lousy tools that they cannot fight against the Demon King army. Joshua remains dumbstruck at this moment, while the others start whispering that the craft production mages are just gold bricks and that they can just buy high-quality tools if this is the best they can do. As if to confirm something, Joshua asks Logue once again if he is really not needed in the order. Logue disdainfully tells him that he does not need someone who does not even obey his orders. He goes as far as to call him a filthy goldbricker and tells him to get lost. Joshua suddenly remembers the time of their childhood when Logue used to say that his swords are the best in the world, but there is no choice but to follow orders and leave now. Joshua leaves the room and stands outside the door, heartbroken, all the while listening to the loud laughter from inside. The vertically long continent of Medius has a human nation in the north and the Demon King's territory in the south. After quitting the order, Joshua headed south, towards the front line of the fight against the Demon King's army in search of work. He now has to make a living off his production magic somehow. Production magic is a magic that combines various elements, letting you make almost anything in the extra dimension as long as you have the materials. Most of his stuff is in the extra dimension, so he has only got my backpack, thanks to the slime whiz that followed him on this journey. Going further, he notices a rustle in the bushes. Soon after, a girl emerges from the bushes, looking injured. Joshua notices the blood and asks if she is okay. However, before the girl can say anything, a group of men chasing after her also arrive at the scene. They plan to capture her and sell her to the wolf pelt for a high price. Joshua understands that these are slave hunters, so he comes in front of the girl and says to them that slave hunting is forbidden. The men proceed to attack him because he has seen this whole situation and they need to get rid of him now. However, Joshua is not someone to be messed with. He uses his ability to absorb and all their weapons vanish. He then takes advantage of the surprise and attacks them. He disassembles the axes sent to the extra dimension and turns them into new weapons using his craft ability. When the new weapons are ready, he attacks the men using steel arrows. Even the girl is amazed that he manages to get them in only a single strike. He was nervous since that was his first taste of combat in a while, but they weren't that tough and the wolf they caught escaped too. So he turns towards the girl and asks if she is okay once again. The girl thanks him for saving her life, but trips due to her injuries. Seeing this, Joshua instantly proceeds to cast healing magic on her. The girl finds the healing magic warm and comforting. Joshua tells her that her legs should be fine now, but her stomach injury might reopen, so he quickly crafts a cloth and bandages her. The girl thanks him once again and apologizes for the late introduction. Her name is Ilia and she is a demon. Joshua also introduces him and Ilia once again wants to thank him but trips once again. Joshua notices that she has lost too much blood and she might get attacked on the way again, so he offers to escort her home. Ilia takes up on the offer, so Joshua hands his backpack to Wiz and takes Ilia in his arms. Surprised by the sudden carriage, Ilia blushes frantically. Joshua notices this and asks if he should carry her on his back. Ilia says that it is not a problem at all with great enthusiasm. Joshua almost forgot to take their weapons and armor, so he does so quickly. Ilia is mesmerized by the magic and asks about it. Joshua explains that this is production magic and he stored the items in a magic vault. With the work done here, Joshua leaves with Ilia, leaving behind the corpses on fire. They finally arrive at Ilia's village, but he does not seem to be welcomed. A demon with a horn on her head claims to be looking for Ilia and asks Joshua to release her at once. Ilia tells the demon Met that this person saved her, but Met does not believe her that a human saved her. Ilia questions if they do not believe her, but no one answers her and everyone moves an inch further. Joshua does not wish to fight, so he settles her down at once. He even apologizes that the humans harmed her and tells her to go. However, Ilia does not leave because she still has not repaid the favor, and she thinks that there is no need for Joshua to apologize because it was her fault for not being able to defend herself. Joshua is surprised to hear this, but before he can say anything, a demon arrives with the news that a young fellow took on an armored boar on his own and got stabbed by its horns. Everyone is shocked and worried to hear that. They always tell their people to not take on the armored boar by themselves. The armored boar is a monster that is 3 to 5 times bigger than the average boar and is a match for 10 human hunters. So fighting one alone is really a foolish act. Joshua is listening to the whole news when Ilia tugs at his sleeve and tells him to wait at the village for now because she wants to return the favor. Joshua was already considering helping them because he knows recovery magic. So they all rushed to the house of the man who was wounded. He wanted to feed good meat to his children, so he tried to hunt the armored boar all by himself. Joshua watches the demon man with his children by his side. However, the man is startled to see a human nearby, but Ilia tells him to relax because this person saved her. She then asks Joshua about the condition of the man. Joshua says that the wound is deep, so he is going to stop the bleeding for now. He uses his heal magic, but it is only able to close the wound a bit and is not enough to stop the bleeding entirely. He plans to cauterize the wound but needs clean water for it. He asks Wiz, who gives him some water without a question. Joshua crafts the potion using the water and applies it on the wound. The man is surprised that it does not hurt anymore and even the bleeding has stopped. Joshua explains that slime jelly potion has an effect on both the bandage and medicine. Everyone, including Ilia, is relieved and happy at the same time. The demon man and the kids are also happy, but Ilia is now even more worried about how to repay Joshua back. He tells her not to worry about it and to rest until her own wounds are healed. Ilia says that she is fine, but soon wobbles due to weakness. Met tells her to rest, but as Ilia is still worried to repay the favor, Met says that she is going to make sure that Joshua stays in the village. So Ilia finally leaves to take a rest. Met glares at Joshua, but the words she speaks are that of gratitude for saving her friend. Joshua tells her not to thank him and that he is going to leave right away. However, Met cannot let her leave because Ilia told him to stay and the chief's words are absolute. Joshua is surprised to find that Ilia is the chief, but more importantly, he asks Met if it is all right for him to stay because he is a human after all. Met tells him that they do find the humans terrifying, but he seems different. He wants to say something more, so she grabs his hand desperately and asks him to teach them any kind of magic. She tells him that other monsters and the humans that pass nearby do not want anything to do with the Demis like them. But Joshua saved them. She even says that the monsters say that their horns are useful and offers her own horn in exchange. Joshua tells her to stop it and frankly tells her that he did not receive the education to teach magic, but he can make tools. After all, making tools is the job of a production mage. So he offers to make tools for the village. Met shines when she hears that and takes him to the place where they keep their weapons. Joshua accesses them and realizes that the handles are from the branches and the most of the heads are from sharp stones or bones. Joshua thinks for a while and asks Mete about the amount of people in the village that can use bows and slings. She tells him that there are no people like that. They just get close to the enemy and fight using spears. So Joshua decides to make weapons that anyone can pick up and use. Met thinks that he is talking about spears, but Joshua is actually talking about crossbows. Met has no idea what a crossbow is, so Joshua decides to show her right away. He crafts it right away, taking Met by surprise. She is surprised that a bow-like thing appeared out of thin air and calls it an act of God. Joshua tells her it is just magic and hands it over to her. Met holds it with great excitement and asks how to use it. To give a tutorial, Joshua asks Wiz to set some branches outside and tells Met that he is going to remove those branches. Met doubts him that there is no way to hit the branches from that far away, but is speechless when Joshua does so. She is too startled and surprised to see it happen in front of her eyes. Joshua tells her to try doing it herself, and after a bit of practice, they can go hunting. Even the kinds are in awe to see the wonders of the new weapon. Met has gotten good at hitting the targets and thinks that this weapon is really worthy. However, it is not all due to the wonder of the weapon. She has the ability to master any weapon due to the crest of Ashura. A crest is the blessing everyone is born with. For example, those with the Sword Master crest excel at handling swords, and certain crests make it easier to improve certain abilities. Joshua's crest is Magic Engineer, and he has never heard of the crest of Ashura, so maybe the demi-human crests are different from the human ones. Met says that the Ashura crest is all-powerful, but she is not able to clearly explain what it does. Joshua assumes that it meant it was a combat-oriented crest and asks her to go hunting with her to put it to good use. He asks if there are easy opponents near her, so Met tells him that there are wild boars near here that they hunt for food. Joshua decides to go hunt them right away and Met agrees. He tells her that she can use the crossbow, but in case the opponents get too close, she would need another weapon. He asks if spears are her best weapons. Meat thinks so, but she fights using clubs more often, so Joshua decides to craft one of those instead. Met is really excited to get her new weapon and even says that she has nothing to fear now that she got the weapon that feels like adding wings to a tiger. Joshua does not understand what she is saying, but he is glad that she likes her new weapon. After this, they go into the wilderness to hunt the boars. Met points out one of them that is so much focused on eating grass that it is not even moving. And there are not many around, so it could be a perfect prey. Joshua tells her to aim at its head, so she does so and is able to get it in a single shot. Amazed by her own accomplishment, she stands up in excitement and is stunned by the fact that the weapon was able to take down a wild boar so easily. Joshua simply smiles at her, and they decide to hunt more. After forming a pile of hunted boars, Met is so excited that she was able to take down 3 wild boars thanks to the crossbow. Joshua warns her that she is being too loud, but it is already too late, and an armored boar comes rushing towards them from the behind. Met thinks that it is her fault, but Joshua tells her that it was probably attracted by the smell of the blood. Met plans to be the bait and tells Joshua to run away, but he says that it is all right. The Demon King's army tames the wild boars, so when he was a child, he used to fight them together with his childhood friend Logue. Joshua instructs that the armored boars are very simple-minded, so he will stop its movement, and Met needs to strike on its head with her mace at the same time. Joshua thinks that he defeated one when he was a child, so if he cannot defeat one now, it means that he has gotten weaker than before. The armored boar charges towards him and Met warns him, but he remains calm. He uses his absorb magic to craft rocks and shoots them at the boar. He is actually distracting it using rocks that are filled with sand. He tells Met to strike its head and she follows his instructions, well to land a hit on its head. Joshua is happy with the outcome as they have defeated the armored boar. He rushes towards Met, who is panting and still matching the fact that she defeated an armored boar. Joshua confirms that it really is dead and is glad that it was more simple-minded than the Demon King's army. He then asks if Matt was able to witness the true power of crossbows and the maces. She happily says that these two are really the most wonderful weapons. This compliment reminds him of what his former comrades said about him and his weapons. He does not seem to remember the last time he was thanked for something he made, that is until now. Met calls out to him when she notices him absent-minded. Joshua says that he is going to make more crossbows and other tools. Met appreciated that because the other members of the clan would be able to fight that way. These are the kinds of reactions to the things he made that make him really happy. The villagers are amazed after seeing the heap of wild boars that are hunted by Met and Joshua. Met gives all the credit to her newly acquired weapon that was forged by Joshua. Ilia is also amazed and more grateful and worried than ever that Joshua did something so dangerous for them, and there is no way to repay him. Joshua tells her not to worry about the matter and that he has decided to stay for a while to make some more tools and weapons for them. All he asks for in exchange is food and a place to stay. He even offers to help with the hunting whenever he is free. Ilia does not know what to say, but Met nods at her in acceptance of the offer. After that, everyone in the village party on the meat for the night. The next morning, Joshua wakes up groggy after a good sleep. He finds Ilia sleeping peacefully next to him, and that is enough to shock him. He panics because he is sure that she left after showing him the tent last night. His questions are still not answered, but he finds Met wriggle on his other side. Now he is too shocked and shouts out loud. His shout only gets sleep-talking from Met, but fortunately Ilia wakes up. She greets him and says that they were trying to keep Joshua warm. Before Joshua can say anything, Met sleeps once again, saying that she is not letting this man go anywhere on Ilia's orders. Ilia wakes her up to prevent her from any more weird sleep-talking. Met finally wakes up and greets Joshua while drooling. She thanks him once again and says that he needs to tell if there is something he needs. Joshua asks if she is going hunting again today because he wants to make some weapons for demos in the village. Everyone gathers around Joshua as he makes piles of weapons. Met takes a bow and tries to use it with the confidence that her grandfather used to be good at it. However, it looks like she is not as good as her grandfather because she breaks it as soon as she pulls the string. The other demons get angry at her for breaking such a precious weapon, but Joshua says that it is all right since he can make more of these in no time. He assesses that since demons are strong, the bows may not suit them, but Ilia looks stunning while holding a bow. He asks if she can use the bow, but he replies that she only saw someone use it a while ago. Joshua hands her the arrow and she is able to use it without any instructions. Even Joshua cannot believe that it is her first time using the bow since the arrow went far away. He tells her that she may have a talent for archery and should train in her spare time. He even handed her a bundle of arrows for practice. After that, he calls for Met and summons Wind around her. He uses Wind to take her measurements and crafts a lean armor for her. The boar horns would not be able to pierce with this armor. Met and the others leave for hunting after getting their new equipment. Joshua asks Ilia if there are any sturdy trees around here. Ilia takes her to a place where iron teak trees are found. These trees are especially tough because even the stone axes cannot damage them, and these trees do not catch fire easily. Joshua ponders that iron teaks are useful because they are sturdy, but they are too thick, and chopping them would take a while even with the steel axes he just made. He decides to find something else, but Ilia has other plans and wants to try the new axes. Joshua thinks that it would take some time even if she keeps at it, but contrary to his expectations, Ilia chops the thing in one go. She seems proud of herself while Joshua is stunned that even the ordinary trees are not cut in this manner. The villagers praise Ilia and start chopping as well. Ilia gives all the credit to the axes, but Joshua clarifies that he made just ordinary steel axes. Joshua concludes that the demons have muscle strength that is far greater than that of humans, and Ilia is even chopping 10 times faster than the others. In just a matter of time, the piles of chopped wood lying in front of an impressed Joshua. Ilia is worried about moving them, but Joshua stores them away easily using his absorbability. Ilia shines as she says that Joshua has an amazing power. Joshua humbles himself by saying that there are more talented people around and tells her that he can make a lot of different things using the wood they just chopped. He is planning to build a fence so that only the villagers are allowed to enter the village at night. Ilia does not know what exactly fences are, but armored boars do often enter the village and cause a commotion at night. She wants to say something else but stops and just says that it really is dangerous at night. Joshua is sure that it is really dangerous, so he wants to surround the village with a fence to protect it against outside enemies. But before that, they need to return to the village because Joshua asked Ilia to show him an elevated area near the center of the village. Ilia takes him to such a place. Joshua asks the reason for not having anything built here despite it being in the center. Ilia looks a little sad when she tells him that they used to hold a festival here in the past. He asks if it is all right to use this place to build something. Ilia says that it is all right since she is sure that the gods would be pleased with them if they used the place for their own sake. Joshua thanks her and gets to the building right away. He builds a tower on the hill, attracting the attention of villagers. Ilia is also amazed at the fact that Joshua is able to build something so big as well. He says that he can make bigger things if they are simple. They climb the tower to get the view. Ilia never thought that she had been able to see the village from up so high. They can even see Met and the others who are hunting. It seems like the hunt is going smoothly and everyone is doing their part. Now, Ilia and the others would be able to see where everyone is and if the monsters are approaching. Joshua is thinking of having someone stand here to watch and alert the villagers if they are in danger. He is also planning to build more watchtowers along the 4 sides of the village. Ilia plans to select those with the best eyesight and hearing for this duty. Joshua will also surround the village with a log fence. He asks Ilia to get some residents to gather stones from around. He wants to use them for reinforcement. Ilia obviously agrees to do so, but she was not expecting what she is seeing right now at all. A great log wall surrounds the village on all sides with sturdy doors. Ilia asks if he is a god, but Joshua says that he would not have been able to do it without their help. Anyways, they should be able to sleep soundly at night. The hunting team has also returned with a lot of meat. They enjoyed dinner while saying that it was all thanks to Joshua that they were able to hunt so much. Met says that it feels like she is dreaming since the village is now surrounded by a sturdy wall. Ilia also agrees with her. She steps out for a while after saying that Joshua can tell if he needs anything. Met is excited that it is now her turn to take care of him. Ilia seems gloomy as she is leaving, but Joshua does not know the reason for it. He compliments Met for the great cooking skills. He says that it was her mother who taught her a lot about cooking. Joshua can see that the meat is perfectly cooked, so she must have nice parents to teach her all this. Met tells him that it is all thanks to her parents and Ilia's predecessors that she is here today. Joshua asks about the previous chief, so Met tells him that the chief faced the orcs. It was about 10 years ago when a group to orcs came claiming that they defeated the humans and laid claim on this territory. Joshua remembers that it was the time when the human allied forces lost the first great battle and the Demon King's army increased their sphere of influence farther up north. The humans suffered heavy casualties, but he didn't know the demons were also affected. Met continues and tells him that she was a kid back then, so she did not know anything. One day, she invited Ilia and her other friends to the plains in the south to play. It was there that some particularly large orcs appeared. Apparently, the horns of the demons were important to them. The chief had talked to the orcs and bartered a truce. But they went back on their words. They had eyes on Ilia's corn, which was large, even for the demon kind, so they tried to take it from her. Ilia covered for the other kids, but Met tried to fight back. The orcs crashed her on the ground, so Ilia threw a stone on them. This caused the orcs to anger, and they grabbed Ilia's corn and eventually broke it away. That is when Met's parents arrived to counter the orcs and told Met to run away with Ilia. She and Ilia escaped to the village while her parents held the orcs. When Met looked back, he only found the heads of her parents. Ilia bowed and cried that she was sorry, but Met thinks that it was her fault for inviting them to play. Joshua tells her that it was the fault of the orcs and they did nothing wrong. Met says that the chief said the same thing. Afterwards, the chief went to meet with the orcs alone and returned holding Ilia's horn. The chief's own horn and arm were gone. The chief died telling Ilia to protect everyone. Met then points and tells that his grave is in the center of the village but finds a tower built there. She trembles when she asks Joshua that he went too far. Joshua explains that he only built that because Ilia said that the gods would be pleased with them. Met contemplates that it really is true that the chief would be pleased with this, and Ilia is not the type of person to mind such things, so it is fine. Joshua asks what Ilia is up to right now. Met tells him that she is probably practicing using the bow he made her this morning. She said that she would be able to protect everyone using it. He really believed him when he said she had talent for it. Joshua says that he really meant what he said to her. With how she handled the bow this morning and the axe this afternoon, she might have a crest that improves her ability to handle weapons. So he asks Met if she knows Ilia's crest. Met proudly tells him that her crest is Hania. There is no one else in the tribe with the same crest as her. It is the first time Joshua heard about it. Met says that it must be a good crest, a gentle one that heals everyone. Ilia is truly kind, so kind that she pushes herself too hard. Even yesterday, when Joshua saved her, she was acting as a decoy to save a demon child. Met says that Ilia's acts are noble, but she is also the chief of the village, so she does not want Ilia to endanger herself anymore. Joshua says that he would make sure to help as well. Met is reassured by his words. She remembers something and attracts everyone's attention to make an announcement. She declares that she has decided to marry Joshua. Everyone looks happy except the person in question, Joshua. He thinks that she is only doing it so that he does not leave the village. He tries to tell her that she does not need to do so because he is planning to stay in this village for a while. However, before he can put his case any further, he feels a raging presence behind him. An angry Ilia stands behind him, reprimanding Met for spouting such nonsense to Joshua. Met whines that she is just making sure that Joshua never leaves the village. She asks if Ilia does not want him to stay in the village forever. In a fit of fury, Ilia declares that she is going to marry him in that case. Both of them start bickering over who is to marry Joshua. Joshua, on the other hand, tries to tell them that he will be staying in the village for a while without marrying anyone. Since no one is listening to him, he sneaks away with Wiz to get some sleep. Joshua wakes up in his bed with Ilia and Met on each side. He has too many questions to ask, but there is no one to answer. Ilia comes to Joshua and asks about his plans for the day. Joshua thinks that he has already made most of the important stuff, but there are still a lot of things needed for the village. He wants to make more tools but would require iron for it. So he asks Met and Ilia if there is a place with a lot of reddish-brown rocks or stones that shine like metal. Ilia tells him that she has seen small ones rolling about sometimes, but she has never seen a lot of them in the forests or the plains nearby. However, at the foot of a mountain in a forest a little to the southwest, there is a cave called the Aster Cave. Joshua asks if they would be able to get inside the cave. She says that it is now home to bats and no one has gone near it for a century. Joshua finds it a pain, but if there are only a few, they would be able to exterminate them easily. Ilia plans to take him there, but Met comes in between and says that she will guide him there and tells Ilia to stay in the village. Joshua thinks that Met does not want to put Ilia in any danger. So he tells Ilia that everyone would be worried if something happened to the chief. With a strong backing, Met is able to persuade Ilia to stay behind. Joshua tells her that they are going to make a quick inspection and return early. Ilia wishes them good luck, and so they arrive at the mouth of the Aster Cave. Met plans to go in there and exterminate the bat, but fortunately Joshua stops her. He explains that the bats may be weak, but they are dangerous because one might get sick if they get bitten. so it is better to see how things are inside first. He then crafts a torch and hands it to Met. He lights it and tells her to throw it inside. If there is a large number of bats, they will be surprised and come out. Met heeds his words and throws the torch inside. All they hear is the sound of water splashing of water. They know that there is definitely something inside, so they decide to hide in the bushes for now. The voice comes closer and closer until they see a giant slime come out. It is a dust slime, a mutant species. It is a monster that absorbs everything it sees, and unlike regular slimes, it can even dissolve metals and rocks. It is not that strong, but it is a pain to deal with, so Joshua suggests they can defeat it with enough people, so they can go back to the village and have Ilia and the other demons help. However, Met is against this idea because she thinks that she can take the thing herself and there is no need for Ilia's help. Joshua tries to tell her that she cannot use a weapon to attack that thing, but Met does not listen and charges at the slime. It is when she attacks it that she finds out that her spear is sucked into the slime. She is also on the same path, but Joshua tells her to let go of the spear. However, she does not want to let go of something Joshua made and somehow gets out of the slime along with the spear. Joshua activates a magic shield to prevent her from falling and crafts some walls to buy some time while he tries to escape along with Met. He asks if she is okay, and she apologizes for not listening to him. Joshua looks back, and as he assumed, the dust slime prefers targeting the moving objects. He is just thinking of putting Met down and fighting it head-on when a shadow moves past him. He looks at it to find that it was no other than Ilia, who is now standing in front of the dust slime. She moves the axe in her hand and attacks the dust slime, causing it to scatter in an instant. Joshua shudders to see her take the dust slime of that size in an instant and with only the ordinary axe he made yesterday. He wonders just how many times she swung it in that moment. The villagers also caught up finally, all out of breath because Ilia was just too fast. Met apologizes to Ilia, but she says not to fret about it because she knows very well that Met was only looking out for her. Ilia says that it is her role to protect everyone and this is why she lives. Met says that she is also going to get stronger, strong enough to protect everyone else. Joshua looks at the two of them and thinks that both Ilia and Met treasure each other, which is probably why they're overly worried about each other, and that is why they are so awkward around each other. He thinks that both of them are a handful. After all the sweet stuff comes the scolding of Ilia, who tells Met to prioritize her own safety and listen to Joshua. She is sure that Met did not listen to him. Her getting hurt is one thing, but if something were to happen to Joshua, it would have been a great problem. Met droops after the scolding and apologizes to Joshua for acting rash. Joshua says that it was also his own fault for underestimating the strength of the dust slime. Ilia tells her to get some rest for the day because she knows that Meat hurt her back when she was hurled earlier. Joshua had no idea about it. He was planning to mine the cave with other demons now that they have taken care of the dust slime, but if Met hurt herself, she should go back to the village. Met looks dejected but agrees to go back. Joshua also takes the dust slime into his procession. Ilia asks what he's going to use it for, so he tells her that dust slime jelly is strong against shock, so it can be used for armor. He then picks up a magic stone from the ground that is a pretty big one. They are the materials that the monsters store in their bodies. They vary in size and color depending on the monster, and some do not have one. Tools and weapons made with these gain some kind of power. The one he is holding is pale green, which is beneficial for wind attribute magic, so it is a pretty good one. Now that these things are settled, it is the time to enter the cave. There should not be any animals inside since it was a home for the dust slime. Ilia notices something and asks about it. Joshua tells her that ordinary slimes. A lot are living in the Aster cave, so one must have mutated into the dust slime. Wiz suddenly starts hopping up and down, triggering all the other slimes inside the cave to do the same. Wiz was simply talking to them, so Joshua thanked them. They move forward into the cave since it should be safe now. Joshua notices that the walls are shining purple. Ilia tells him that apparently the people of the past named this the Aster Cave because it looked like purple flowers were blooming on the walls. Joshua decides to look into it and instantly crafts an ice axe. He scratches the walls of the cave using it while the others seem surprised by his actions. What he finds is not just any iron, it is the violet iron. It is a metal over 3 times as hard as regular iron. It is one of the few objects that can even withstand magic attacks. Among humans, it is a metal that's covered by royals and nobles along with orichalcum and mithril. Joshua was blabbering too much about it in his excitement, but fortunately, he realizes early that his audience is not getting the point across, so he concludes that it is a very good metal and they can make good weapons and armor with it. Anyways, he decides to make pickaxes for everyone to mine so the demons become happy and cheer. Everyone starts mining with great enthusiasm, and the product is a lot of metal. With this much, they do not need to worry about running out. They can, of course, make gathering tools like axes and pickaxes, as well as cooking utensils like pots. A demon asks if Joshua can also make weapons with it. This gives Joshua an idea, so he starts making them. Ilia arrives and finds everyone cheerful while holding some new equipment. She finds Joshua and asks if he is still making things for them. Joshua says that she came at the perfect time because he was making something for her. He hands her a sword, but she has no idea what it is. So Joshua tells her that when he was making weapons in bulk yesterday, he looked at cloth paintings with records of the village because he thought demon weapons would make a good reference. It is a katana that was depicted there. It looks difficult to wield because of how long it is. But Joshua thought Ilia might be able to use it well, just like her ancestors. Ilia knows that it is the same as drawn on the painted records, but she does not understand why Joshua gave it to her. He tells her that since she said she wants to protect everyone after she defeated the dust slime, he thought of making her a weapon. She is touched and thanks Joshua, saying that she is going to cherish it. Joshua tells her to ask anything she wants, and he would make it for her. However, Met does not look too happy to hear that. She demands what Ilia is holding and wants one as well from Joshua. He tells her that it is a katana and her ancestors used them. Met says that seeing this weapon sparked a fire in her. Ilia once again asks him how they are ever going to repay his kindness. Joshua tells her not to say it like that since they are providing him food and a place to sleep, so there is no need to feel like they owe him anything special. And besides, he wants to make this village a safer and more prosperous place. They thank him once again while Joshua thinks that he needs to solve 3 problems that the village has. The first is safety, as he wants the houses to be made out of iron teak so that they can withstand attacks from boars and slave hunters. The second is food, as of right now they are depending on hunting and gathering for meat, berries, and alike. But that would not be reliable forever. Of course, the best way to ensure a stable food supply would be through agriculture. The last is sanitation. Regular washing of their clothes, bedding, and bodies would make them recover from injuries faster and prevent the spread of diseases. Demons do have a culture of washing their bodies, hands, and clothes with water, but they go all the way to the river every time to draw water. He wants to build some kind of water supply so they can use it more frequently. For that, he will also want a quarry, and eventually, he wants to make washrooms and baths as well. For the sake of the demons who are happy with what Joshua makes, he will make their village safe and prosperous. Something ominous lurks through the bushes on a hill near the village. Suddenly, a wolf emerges and howls loudly towards the sky. The reverberating growl startles the villagers. Joshua wonders what that cry was, and Ilia explains that the sound most likely came from the north. Realizing the danger, Joshua tells Met to have the demons be on their guard, and the ones skilled with bows and crossbows should head towards the north. Met wastes no time and gets to work. Joshua turns to Ilia, asking her to do the same. Everyone rushes outside as a lookout calls out to Joshua and Ilia, telling them that it's coming straight from the north and the cries are getting louder and louder. Judging from the sounds, Joshua realizes that there are a lot of them and orders Met to prepare for battle. Met tells the others to get ready and don't attack until she gives the signal. Met exclaims that the rapidly approaching footsteps indicate over 100 individuals heading straight for them. Ilia states that they are also approaching quickly. Everyone gathers at the northern fortress, armed with bows and crossbows. Suddenly, Ilia gasps in shock and tells Joshua that she can see them. Haunted by the truth, she tells them that they are being attacked by werewolves. Joshua recalls that werewolves are human and wolf hybrids that normally remain in human form but take the form of a wolf to fight or hunt, and they live primitive lives in remote regions in fear of humans. Ilia watches on in horror as the wolves get closer. Joshua asks her what the wounds are, and she explains that they might have been attacked and wounded by slave hunters. Met orders the demons to take aim, but Ilia stops her, stating that it looks like the werewolf wants to say something. Recognizing the leading wolf, Ilia tries to tell Joshua, but he remembers it too, stating that it's the same wolf that got caught when Ilia was attacked by slave hunters. Suddenly, the wolf starts talking to them. She introduces herself as Merc. She asks them to let them through, explaining that they just want passage. Ilia replies that they also have no intention of fighting them, but asks if they could explain what happened. Merc states that they were attacked by humans earlier and they had to flee. She explains that they are still in danger, but she is suddenly interrupted by the loud noise of the humans approaching. Ilia immediately exclaims that all of them should get into the village and tells Met to get the north gate open. The injured wolves make their way in through the gate. Suddenly, someone screams to get them all. Joshua turns to see a band of slave hunters at their doorstep, blinded with greed. They exclaim that they must capture all of those werewolves, but suddenly notice the village fortress. Joshua thinks that it would be nice if the slave hunters left now, but he realizes that they have captured some werewolves and decides that he can't let them go like this. Joshua asks Med if the demons could just target the slave hunters. She orders everyone to take aim at the slave hunters, but avoid the captured werewolves. They all fire at the slave hunters with clean precision, dealing serious damage to them. Trying to save their skin, the slave hunters begin pleading with the village, stating that they are humans and only after the demi-humans that came this way. Joshua yells that they are demi-humans too and orders the slave hunters to release the captured werewolves. Well, technically he isn't demi-human, but the details don't matter. The slave hunters are startled by the news, thinking that a bunch of demi-humans found an abandoned fortress and made it their base. They decide to retreat while using the captured werewolves as shields so they don't get hit. Met is outraged at their cowardice, but before she can do something rash, Joshua tells her to wait. He is in the middle of giving orders when Ilia takes out her katana and jumps off the fortress headfirst. She stares down the retreating slave hunters, and they wonder what she is. Without warning, she slashes through them with cold precision, avoiding the werewolves. The slave hunters have no time to react as she defeats them in seconds and moves to the next one. A slave hunter desperately grabs onto a little werewolf and asks who she is. Ilia looks at him with fierce eyes and tells him that if they release the werewolves, she will spare their lives. The slave hunter thinks he can exploit her attachment to demi-humans as he puts a knife to the baby werewolf's neck and orders Ilia to stop and go back to her fortress. His distasteful methods completely repulse Ilia, and she looks at him with a bone-chilling stare. In the blink of an eye, she slashes through his arm, forcing him to release the werewolf. She rushes towards him, deadest on punishing him when suddenly Joshua yells at her from the fortress telling her to stop. He exclaims that chasing them any farther is dangerous. Ilia listens to him and stops her rampage as she looks around to see many werewolves clinging onto her as their hero. Joshua is proud of her amazing power. Although the danger is over, the situation is still hectic. Met orders the demons to let the injured rest near the campfire and treat the severely injured ones with Joshua's bandages. As everyone is running around trying to help the wolves, Merc comes up to Ilia and Joshua and thanks them. Merc explains that she is the daughter of the MAZES tribe's chief. Ilia is thrilled to be formally introduced to Merc and states that she is the chief of this village. Merc bows her head in respect and Ilia sits down next to her, stating that she doesn't have to be so formal. She tells Merc to just call her Ilia, and Merc's eyes light up with compassion and admiration. Ilia asks Merc if they all came from the northern mountains, and Merc states that they did. She explains that they lived in a cave at the foot of a mountain, but recently humans have been appearing. Merc says that there were particularly many of those humans near their cave yesterday, so they all ran away. Joshua asks if those were the same humans who chased them all the way here, and Merc explains that there are probably a lot more of them. She says that some of them even used fire, shooting large flames from their hands. Joshua realizes that they could only be the fire mages and wonders if they're up against fire mages, they better replace their wooden fences with stone walls. Joshua turns to Merc and asks if they've met before, and she states that they have, saying that he was with Ilia before too. Joshua is relieved to see her again after she was captured by the slave hunters, but Met overhears their conversation. She becomes suspicious of the werewolf, asking if Merc came here to set the slave hunters on them. Ilia tries to defend Merc, expressing that she didn't even know Ilia and Joshua were here, but Merc corrects her, explaining that she traced Ilia's scent here. Merc states that she thought they would save her people again like they did before. Regretting the loss of so many of her people, Merc expresses that she should have sought help earlier. She once again emphasizes that they need their help. Ilia reassures Merc that they should stick together and help each other in times like this so she can rely on them. Met is not as welcoming as Ilia. She sternly questions Merc, asking what she wants. Merc explains that she wants them to let her and her people stay in their village for a while. They will do anything they say, and all of them except the children will fight alongside them to defend the village. Met is skeptical of the situation, but Joshua stops her, explaining that even demons are being hunted by the slave hunters, so all of them must work together. Merc finally calms down, saying that the enemy of an enemy is their friend, so they will help the wolves. Feeling assured, Met explains that she will set up the guards and tell everyone else to rest. She will also get them to prepare food and a place to sleep for the wolves. Ilia turns towards Merc, stating that she is also wounded and should get some rest. The wolves get some much-needed rest as the demons keep the campfire going and make arrangements to take care of them. Ilia checks up on Merc, who is fast asleep, and cleans her injuries. Ilia says that she is still only a child, and Joshua states that she must have been tired, so they should let her get some sleep. Joshua tells Ilia to also get some rest since she fought so hard, and she says that she will and asks Joshua when he'll go rest. Joshua explains that he'll rest after he checks the weapon and armor they retrieved from the slave hunters. A villager tells Joshua that they finished gathering those and put them near the gate. Joshua thanks him and goes to check them out. He digs through the things and finds a crest. He notices that it is the seal of the Cooperative company, a giant company that engages in illegal drug and slave trades. Joshua realizes that the large number of slave hunters must all be from the Cooperative company and thinks that they will be hard to deal with. He wonders that a fire mage from the company must also be very skilled and realizes that they must fortify their defenses quickly. He exclaims that if they don't stop the slave hunters, the same thing will happen again. In his sleep, Joshua feels something nice and fluffy on top of him and wishes to pet it forever. He opens his eyes up and sees a person sleeping on top of him. He wonders who she is. The girl also opens up her eyes and greets him good morning. From her voice, Joshua recognizes that she's actually Merc in human form. He asks Merc how she knows his name, and she reveals that Ilia told her. Joshua finds Ilia sleeping right beside himself and wonders when she got there. Ilia also gets up and greets Joshua. Outside, Joshua thinks that fire mages were among the slave hunters that attacked yesterday, so depending on how skilled they are, the log fence may not be enough to stop them, so he decides to gather construction material that are strong against fire. Joshua asks Merc if she ever saw any bare rocky ground without any grass or trees nearby. Merc asks if the place has to be rugged and cool like her mountain cave. Joshua says yes, so Merc tells him that there's some place like that across the river. As the East River is wide and flows downstream, so crossing it on foot is dangerous, Joshua asks if there is any other way across. Med offers to give a piggyback ride, at which Joshua says to first check the river for aquatic monsters. Ilia also confirms from Joshua if they will go to the other side of the river. Merc offers to be their guide because they need to be careful of all the big boars on the way. Ilia also offers to go in that case. Met also wants to go, saying more the better, and Joshua has no issue with that. Joshua decides to make some armor for Ilia. Joshua asks Merc for a favor, at which Merc excitedly says she'll do everything she can. He gives her a piece of clay to sniff and asks her to find more of it. Merc finds where it is buried, and Joshua pulls out a shovel and gets to digging. The rest are confused and ask why they need clay. Joshua explains that he can send the clay to a magic workshop, shape it and heat it with fire, and then cool that down and put water in it to create a more complex shape than the ones made of wood, and it can also make tiles and bricks. Ilia is impressed and decides to tell the villagers to dig up clay later. They reach the river and find that it really is very wide, so Joshua decides to build a bridge. They walk on the bridge to avoid getting wet or being swept away by the waves. Joshua asks Merc how she crossed the river. Merc says that up north the river gets a bit narrow, so she was able to jump from rock to rock. Met likes the way wind feels, while Ilia likes the sound of the river, while Merc is able to smell the mountains to the north. Joshua thinks that Merc and the other werewolves must be hurt from what just happened and wishes to heal them, but realizing that they are also in danger, decides to first get the rocks for the villagers' sake. They finally reach the spot. Joshua sees that there are signs of rocks being cut off everywhere, so someone must have used the place as a quarry. Joshua asks Merc about the boars she saw there. Merc tries to avoid this place as the boars are big and strong. So far, they haven't encountered any beasts coming at them and have only seen small animals like rabbits and birds. Joshua decides to mine the rocks and uses drilling magic that combines wind and fire to cut rocks. He begins to cut the rocks when suddenly the whole place begins shaking. They see that the rocks are coming together in the center. It turns out to be a massive golem. Ilia rushes to attack, but Joshua stops her because the thing is very tough, but she still attacks and smashes the golem's leg. But the leg immediately reforms. She apologizes for acting on her. Joshua explains that as long as they don't destroy the stone shining reddish black in the center, the golem can keep performing its body with rocks forever. The golem throws rocks, which they avoid. Joshua shouts that he'll expose the reddish black stone and asks the others if they can destroy it then, and they agree. Joshua tells Merc to focus on dodging and rushes ahead first. Ilia tries to stop him as that's too dangerous, but he does not stop, saying he's the right guy for the job. The golem throws some rocks at him, which he absorbs. As even the golem's body is inorganic rock, Joshua decides to absorb it. The golem tries to collect rocks to replace the ones he absorbed, but Joshua is able to absorb rocks faster than the golem can replenish them, allowing him to reveal the golem's stone. He orders them to attack, so Met attacks with her metal rod, smashing the golem to pieces. Ilia now slashes the exposed black stone. After the fight, the stone falls into Joshua's hand, and Ilia worriedly asks him if he's fine. Joshua compliments the two on their work and is very pleased upon getting the golem's puppet stone. They are very fragile, so normally they crumble after the golem is taken down, but as it was cut right down the middle, it is still shining and can still be used as a puppet stone, and they can even make two. Ilia asks if the rock puppets will attack them again, but Joshua explains that puppets follow the orders of whoever's name is engraved on their puppet stones, and even if they were previously owned, you can just overwrite them. Ilia finds that difficult to believe, but is nevertheless happy to help. Joshua excitedly crafts one golem, which amazes Ilia that he's able to even craft living things. Joshua isn't sure if the golem is alive, but feels that it is special. Joshua tells the golem to cut out a cube-shaped rock, and the golem does that with ease. Not wanting to fall behind, Met also grabs a large bunch of rocks, but the golem takes it from her arms with a single hand. Joshua happily thinks that they now have a dependable partner. The villagers were going about their daily activities when the chaos broke out. They are all panicking, looking in a particular direction that is under enemy attack. What stands before them is a giant creature made of stones. Fortunately, Met excitedly comes and tells everyone that it is a golem, a new friend that Joshua made. The golem came carrying stones, so Ilia asks what he plans to do with them. Joshua plans to build a wall for the village, but it will take some time before they have enough for the wall. So the first step would be to strengthen the north gate, which is the most vulnerable. Once the wall is complete, both Ilia and Met are stunned because they were not expecting something this grand. Ilia says that this is the biggest thing Joshua has made thus far. Honestly, even he himself did not know that he could make it this big either. Now is the time to test the sturdiness of the wall, so Met voluntarily comes forward with her mace. Joshua stops her right away because with her strength, it would definitely collapse. So the ordinary demons are called for the testing part, while Met remains dejected for not having any part in it. Joshua thinks that the construction will move forward in no time. He is also worried about the fire mages that Merc mentioned, so they need to rebuild the walls with the stone quickly. So with the help of the golem, Joshua continues the construction of the walls. As he is building, Met and the others come to appreciate his work, warranting a scolding from Ilia later for this. With this pace, Joshua knows that they would be able to rebuild the north wall by tomorrow, and they can use the logs from the fencing to build new sturdy houses. He is excited that the possibilities are endless. He is still fantasizing about these boundless possibilities when Met arrives and asks about Merc. Joshua has not seen Merc since this morning. Met is looking for her because she was thinking of preparing the meal with her. Met was not too fond of werewolves at first, but she probably started caring for them after seeing how they work and how humble they are. So this is her way of showing concern. After pondering these things, Joshua agrees to go look for her after telling Met to start on cooking. Met thanks her and counts on him for the task. Joshua walks around the village, looking here and there until he meets Ilia. He asks if Merc is with her, but the answer he receives is a no, since Ilia also did not see her since this morning. Joshua wonders if she is out hunting somewhere, but they do not know for sure and decide to ask other werewolves. Joshua goes ahead and asks and finds out that Merc was near the river on the south, saying she found some nice mushrooms and left carrying a basket. Joshua plans to go search for her right away, but the werewolf says that Joshua has already done so much for them already, so they cannot trouble him any more than this. He also says that there is no need to worry about Merc because she wants to thank the demons by giving them those mushrooms. However, Ilia says that they need not thank them and they can rely on them even more. She does not want them to push themselves and lose their lives in the process. The werewolf says that he understands and will tell other werewolves as well. Ilia thanks him and tells him to leave the matter of Merc to them. Joshua hopes that Merc did not get swept down the river or anything. It is almost sunset, so they need to hurry, so Joshua and Ilia leave to look for her right away. On the way, Ilia is worried about Merc, and the both of them hope that she is safe. Ilia wonders why she is going out of her way to do this for them. Joshua says that he actually gets how she feels actually. Back then, when his town was burned down, even though he was a child, he was coldly driven off for being useless no matter where he went. They did not let anyone they deemed worthless stay in their towns. Ilia cannot believe that they drove off someone as kind as him. However, Joshua says that he really could not do anything back then. That is why he desperately taught himself swordsmanship and magic. He thinks that Merc feels the same way right now. She is desperate to prove herself to Ilia. She thinks that they will drive them out if they do not contribute. To be fair, some demons actually would do that, but like Ilia said earlier, the werewolves are clearly working too hard right now. After hearing all this, Ilia wants to talk some more to Merc. Joshua also feels the same, so they need to hurry back together with Merc and talk things out. When they reach the river, they start calling for her. Soon, Merc shouts to tell them her location. She is sitting alone on a rock in the middle of the river. Joshua assumes that she could not go back because the water level rose and crafts a bridge to reach her. Merc hops on the bridge, and the first thing she asks is the reason for their arrival. This simple question triggers Ilia, and she starts scolding Merc. She says that Joshua might not get angry because he is nice, but she will get angry. She tells him to never go to dangerous places by herself. Merc hides behind Joshua and tries to defend herself by saying that there is nothing dangerous about this place where there are only mushrooms. Ilia does not know what to say and tells her to not do anything that makes people worried. After all, they are friends living in the same village. Merc properly bows and assures that she would be careful and will not make the worry like this ever again. Ilia tells her that she and the other werewolves have helped them a lot. They would not have been able to find the clay if not for them. Merc says that she just has a good sense of smell and she cannot compete with the demons at all when it comes to strength. Ilia tells her that it is fine because the werewolves have what demons lack and demons have what werewolves do not possess. So if they work together, they can all live happier lives. Joshua knows that humans and monsters keep pushing the Demis around, but the Demis could prevent that if they combine their exceptional powers. Ilias has the right idea. Fortunately, Merc also agrees with her and both shake hands to their new partnership. Joshua suggests going back now because Met is waiting for them with good food. Merc shows the basket full of mushrooms she just picked. Joshua says that these are the magic mushrooms called mushrooms. They can be used for food or medicine to heal wounds and disease. He praises Merc for her hard work, but she says it was nothing even though her tail is wagging excitedly. They return to the village and a hot pot of food awaits them. Joshua says that it looks tasty, but Merc has her doubts of cooking meat and fruits together and even questions Met's ability to cook. Met is offended by the remark, and Joshua thinks that Met does look a bit of a klutz. But judging from the food she made for them thus far, there is nothing to worry about. Ilia is the one to take the first bite and finds it tasty. She even praises Met for outdoing herself this time. After hearing Ilia say that, Merc also takes a bite and the taste of the food hits her brightly. She also praises the food while munching on it. Met feels smug after hearing the praises and asks Merc how she finds the mushrooms that are in the food. Merc says that these are juicy and she never had mushrooms with this texture before. Met is excited to hear that it is now Joshua's turn to try, but before he can, a commotion occurs outside. They go out to check and find someone standing on the rooftop. Merc says that they must be after their meat, but there is no way that is true until the person's stomach really growls loudly. The girl blushes after experiencing something bashful. Met asks the girl what she wants, but before she can say anything, the girl wobbles and falls off the rooftop. Joshua rushes towards her, but Wiz beats him to it and catches the girl. It looks like she passed out and her wings are tattered as well. Now the question arises, just who exactly is this Demi? The group finds a Demi lying in front of them. The woman tries to talk, but Joshua stops her and asks Ilia to prepare a bed for the woman. Met gives the woman some soup to drink to warm up her body. She drinks some and falls asleep. Met points out that the woman is most probably a tango, which are found at the foot of the small mountain west of where she lives. Ilia lets them know that the bed is ready. Joshua uses a heel to treat all the scratches on her before carrying her. Joshua asks Wiz to look after the woman for a while. The other villagers are curious and try to have a look, but Met tells them to go back to eating as there's probably enough for seconds. Merc tells Joshua that her mom thinks that he's amazing as he can use more than one type of magic. Joshua lets her know that he's only using simple healing magic. Merc reveals that she is also able to use magic, and she uses that to tell what animals can use magic. Joshua asks if she can use any magic herself. Merc answers that she can use wind magic, but she is only good enough to use it to play. Joshua knows that it isn't good enough for fighting and asks her if she knows what crests are. Mercy's crest is White Wolf, which is good for ice and healing. Joshua says that it is a crest related to ice and healing magic, so she may be able to use magic to combine those two attributes and asks her if her mom taught her those too. Merc's mom only taught her wind magic, as that was the one she could use, so asks Joshua to teach her. Joshua agrees, asking her if she's fine with simple stuff, saying it won't be hard if she already knows how to gather magical power. Joshua decides to first try freezing the water in the bucket. He tells her to visualize freezing the target and crafts a magic wand for her to make it easier to aim. She uses the wand and is able to freeze the water with ease. Joshua tells her to train more to be able to cool all kinds of things. Merc thanks Joshua and decides to practice some more. Joshua decides to try using Merc's magic to build new facilities. The next day, Joshua opens a door revealing stairs going into the large hole he had asked the demons to make. He heads inside with Merc and tells her that the walls inside are lined with stone and it is separated from the outside by a violet iron door. When they reach the underground room, Joshua asks Merc if she can freeze the room's floor and walls. Merc asks if this is her practice, and he explains that it is also going to be used to store frozen items. He plans to store frozen meat and fish so they don't rot. Merc tells Joshua to leave the job to her. Joshua is counting on her because it is hard for him to freeze this kind of space as he can only use crafting magic, which Merc finds weird. Joshua tells Merc to practice hard and decides to go construct the walls, but Merc lets him know that she can sniff that the Tengu from before is kicking up a fuss outside. The two go back up and see that Ilia is trying to stop the Tengu as she needs some more rest, but she does not stop. Joshua tells her that she'll fall again considering the way her wings are, so asks to know each other better and introduces himself. The Tengu is shy at first, but then introduces herself as Asuha the Tengu. The rest also introduce themselves to her. Joshua tells Asuha that she can't fly with those wings, so offers to make her a tool to let her fly. Ilia is surprised that Joshua can even make wings, but he admits that wings are too complex for him, so he can only make model birds. He crafts a wand and asks Asuha if she can use magic. He teaches her how to use wind magic, and she is able to create a gush of wind. He gives her the wand he crafted to allow her to use the wind magic to fly. Merc points out that the wand has a green stone unlike hers. It is a magic stone that appeared when Ilia and the others defeated the dust slime. The green stones are able to improve a person's wind magic, allowing them to create strong winds with it and then fly with it. Asuha gives it a try and manages to fly upwards. Ilia, seeing the stone being used in this way, gets impressed. Joshua adds that Asuha's magic skills should also be credited. Asuha thanks Joshua but hesitates to accept the gift. Joshua asks her to just take it as it'll help compensate for her wings. He asks her that if she feels like owing him, the Tengu should cooperate somehow, at which she asks him what she can do for him. Joshua explains to her that there are some humans attacking the Demis lately, so asks her to gather some info as Tengu can fly. Asuha immediately agrees to the offer but decides to ask the rest about it first, and they will do whatever they can to help. Ilia warns Asuha about the bad humans. Asuha assures Joshua that it does not matter what the others in the tribe say, she'll return to repay. Asuha flies away while Merc says that both Joshua and Ilia are too kind. Met adds that it is the part of them that she likes. Met reminds Ilia that she has something to ask Joshua. Ilia blushes and asks Joshua to make a flute for her, explaining that she learned how to play from her mother but she broke. Joshua has no problem with that and asks her if it is shaped and the material it was made from. Ilia explains that it was a long and thin wooden flute. Joshua immediately creates a flute and shows it to her. Ilia thanks Joshua and says she'll practice even though she does not know how to use it. Met asks Ilia to start playing it right away and she agrees. Ilia prepares to play the flute, which Joshua thinks will be nice and calming and expresses her warm personality, but it is so bad that even Joshua asks her to stop. Ilia says that it has been so long since she last played, but she still remembers how to and says that she'll practice the flute as hard as Merc practices her magic, but they don't want her to do that. Joshua thinks that they can use it to intimidate the enemy, which disturbs Met. Ilia asks Met to join her, but she declines. Joshua takes a look at Asuha and sees that she's flown a good distance and thinks that she will be able to get back home safely. However, Asuha returns to them the very next day. Joshua happily looks at all the progress they made. Yesterday, they had finished the north side, and today they fortified all the walls of the west side, all thanks to the golems and slimes. Suddenly, Merc comes and lets Joshua know that there's smoke coming from the other side of the mountain up north. The smoke is coming from the place where Tengu lives. Merc suspects that they got attacked just like them. Ilia tells everyone to get ready to take them in, and Joshua agrees with her. Joshua looks to the sky and spots Asuha, who is using her wind magic to carry herself and rest of the wounded villagers with her. Joshua realizes that the Tengu had just been attacked by the slave hunters. Joshua asks Asuha what happened and assures her that they'll take everyone in, so she shouldn't worry. Asuha thanks him and cries that their village was burned down. The other Tengu realize that Joshua is a human and panic that he will kill them all and try to run away, but Ilia stops them and tries to assure them that Joshua won't hurt them. The Tengu see that she's also a human, causing their panic to intensify and wonder why Asuha took them there. They wonder how to handle the panic, but Astava tells them to stop and explains that they saved her life and are different from the other humans and they have welcomed them to their village. The Tengu apologize for their rudeness, but Ilia says that it is fine as they must have been through a lot and asks them to get some food and rest and that they will provide the injured a place to sleep. Merc says to leave the injuries to her as she will treat them. Astava explains that only a third of the villagers managed to escape while half of the others got captured and the rest were burnt alive by a giant flame-throwing human. Joshua thinks that it is the same fire mage that had attacked Merc's village. The other humans were unable to hit them despite there being many of them, but the mage was exceptional as he turned the entire forest into ash in an instant. Joshua thinks that the mage must be able to use high-level magic to be able to produce that much flame. Joshua understands that Astava isn't in a state to answer any questions, but still asks her if the mage used any other kind of magic. Astava explains that the mage only used fire magic. She explains that she saw an open area in the forest that looked like a town for humans in which she saw their friends, as well as demons and werewolves being forced to work. That is why she had asked her father to team up with Joshua and the others, but he wanted some time to think, but today he got killed by those humans. After hearing what happened, Joshua suspects that the humans who attacked her village are probable from that town in the west, and as there were no human towns around them, it must be a base made by illegal slave hunters and a fire mage, and worries that if they don't come up with a plan, their village will also be in danger. And if they find out about their place, many slave hunters will be sent their way in the future, and even if they manage to win the fight, they will certainly suffer a lot of casualties, so they have to act quickly. Joshua pulls Ilia, Met, Mercs, and Wiz for a talk. Joshua tells them everything that Asu has said and explains that there's a chance that the slave hunters will reach them at the rate they are going, and he wants to discuss with them what to do in case they are discovered. They all collectively decide to fight the slave hunters if they come. Ilia is determined to not let the slave hunters take anyone away, and she plans to never give anyone up either, even if they are the same race as Joshua. Joshua offers a suggestion. Joshua says that the odds will be against them if they wait for them, so suggests making the first move. This worries Ilia, but Met gets excited upon hearing this. Met is excited at the chance to invade, as she has been wanting to have her revenge for all the things that the slave hunters did to them. Joshua understands how Met feels but explains that breaking in from the start would be dangerous, so their most important goal is to rescue the Demis, who are held captive at the base, so they should reduce their numbers first and then break in. Merc asks if they will lure the enemies out. Joshua plans to lure the slave hunters out and then take them out all at once and then attack their base, so he asks Wiz to dig out some coal with the golems instead of violet iron at the mines. Wiz bounces in agreement and Joshua thanks him and asks him to dig as much as possible. Ilia asks about coal and Joshua explains that it is stone that burns well, so they'll use it as a trap. Joshua has a favor to ask Merc as werewolves are quick on their feet. Merc says that everyone wants to help out too, so she'll do anything. Joshua says that he wants her to lure out the slave hunters from their base and towards the front of the northern wall while keeping her distance from them. Joshua asks Asuhed to tell the others where the slave hunter base is because if they can narrow down the direction from which the enemy will come from, they can set up a trap there, and it's dangerous work, but it is absolutely necessary. Merc tells Joshua to not worry and leave everything to them. Joshua tells Asuhed that he will ask her another thing when she returns. He tells her to just blow wind from atop the wall, and he'll explain Met the details, so when she returns, she should go see her. Met and Merc leave. Met asks Joshua if she will be the one giving orders. Joshua explains that he'll be the decoy this time, so he wants her to take command, which surprised everyone. Ilia gets worried at this and asks Joshua to leave it to her, but he says that he has a hunch about something and he needs to be at the front to take full advantage of that and wants her to stand by at the gate and charge right in when he gives her the signal. This is why they need Met to take command, as he wants her to give instructions in the right order. Met says that she'll memorize the order somehow. Joshua plans to also tell Wiz so Met does not have to worry about the small stuff. Joshua begins preparations for the battle and plans to set up arms on top of the tower. This confuses them, so he explains that he'll craft some big weapons like the ballista. Met says that it is a very large crossbar, and Joshua explains that it is a ballista which can be used to shoot large arrows and rocks. Met asks if she just has to fire away, but Joshua explains that they would not use it till the very end. Wiz and the Golem return with the coal just in time. They thank Wiz for bringing the coal so quickly. Joshua puts finely ground coal and boar fat into a gunny sack and plans to make large amounts of it and have the Teng drop it on the enemies from the air, and tells Met that after they get done, She should light arrows on fire and attack the enemy's surroundings with bows and crossbows. Joshua tells everyone to get ready for the battle before Mercs and the others get back. Joshua and the rest are putting hay for the trap when Mercs and the rest return. Merc reports that they have brought at least 300 enemies. Joshua asks if everyone is okay and Merc reports that everyone is fine. Joshua is happy and tells her to not waste any time and move out from the east and west gates with the other werewolves and demons and monitor the enemies at a distance, and if anyone tries to get away, she should take them down but should capture them in case they stop resisting. Joshua is going all alone but assures them that he'll be fine and thinks that as a human, he should be the one to put an end to all this. The slave hunters gather outside the village. One of them asks the others if the werewolves really went this way, and another one answers that there's no doubt about it. Suddenly, the hunters are stopped in their tracks by a large towering stone wall. They think that they went in the wrong direction and begin bickering with each other. An annoyed mage emerges from the crowd and takes his hood off, clearly displeased by the situation. A soldier addresses him as Sir Burnish and explains that this was the right place. He points at the fortress, drawing attention to the werewolves standing on top of it looking at them. Someone approaches the hunters from nearby, and they all turn towards him to find Joshua. Joshua states that he only wants to talk. Burnish arrogantly scoffs at Joshua and asks what a human is doing here, and Joshua explains who he is and asks what they have been doing all this time. Burnish recognizes the name and tries to recall how he knows it. He remembers that he saw Joshua at Schwarberg. He was Logue's apprentice with the magic engineer crest. Burnish is excited to see Joshua and asks if he remembers him, saying that he let Joshua sharpen his sword. Joshua states that he doesn't remember him but realizes that he is Logue's relative, an honor student at a magic university and a genius who can use fire magic called the Flame Deity. Joshua warns the mage to stop hunting slaves and go back to school, and Burnish bursts into laughter, exclaiming that Joshua remembers him after all. Burnish talks down to Joshua, stating that magic engineers are the lowest of the low, they can't get into any magic university. Burnish becomes completely lost in self-delusion, stating that Joshua was so jealous of him because he is the honor student at Verso's Magic University. Joshua thinks that Burnish is exactly like Logue, judging people based on their crests. Joshua asks Burnish why a genius honor student of a prestigious magic university is doing something disgraceful like slave hunting. Hunting demis is forbidden by the temple after all. Burnish says that only the goody two-shoes would follow a rule like that. He also says that he is not doing it for money, but because doing this is so much fun. Joshua disdains him that it is even worse. However, according to Burnish, he cannot have this type of fun in the university. Werewolves, flying demis, his fire makes them all scream, and this is so thrilling for him. Burnish thinks that a talentless person like Joshua would never be able to experience the fun of it. He is glad that he was not born trash like him. Joshua had also rather died than be someone like Burnish. Burnish gets startled to hear that. It was intentional on Joshua's part because he wants to provoke him. And as expected, Burnish does get triggered and threatens to burn him down. Joshua finds him easy to manipulate and provokes him some more. Burnish finally loses it and prepares to throw his flames. He lets out a god flame, which is a high-level fire magic. Joshua looks at the flame and wonders just how many innocent demis were hurt by it. Joshua wants to pay him back for what he did. With the courtesy of his magic storage, he makes it rain powdered coal. Burnish realizes that something is wrong with the powder and shrieks in his own flames. Even his comrades have no idea what to do. The ignited coal uses boar fat, so the fire would not go out easily. Burnish keeps burning, shouting that he cannot die like this. He is the Verso's Magic University student, Count Whale's son, but there is no one to help him. The guards he brought with him are dumbstruck, but the demis attack them. They want to run for their lives, but cannot due to the raging fire, the werewolves, and Ilia. Med instructs the demis to charge forward. The guards have no way of passing through the forest, so they run towards the riverbank. The demis are amazed that they were able to defeat humans, but Met tells them to chase after them. Joshua wants to interrogate them, so he orders Met to catch them and bring them back. Met follows the orders, but does not seem too keen about it. Merc says that she has a high possibility of slaying them, so it is best that the werewolves handle this matter. The both parties chase after the humans, one outrunning the other. Astavha comes to Joshua and thanks him. She confirms that Burnish was the one who attacked their village. Joshua is also glad that they were able to defeat him. The demis look motivated to attack the enemy base and free all their friends and ask Joshua for assistance. Joshua says that they should not rush themselves too hard. So far, they've devised tactics that do not put their lives at risk. If they invade now and lose someone, then everything would be for naught. But it is not like they need to seize their base, they just need to free the captured Demis. On the other hand, Met and Merc have successfully captured the enemies alive. Joshua thanks them and crafts a demon mask and tells everyone to go along with what he says.